Hello dear friends. However numerous the beings may be, I vow to liberate them all. Bodhisattva vow. Opinion piece. The way of the Renouncer. The sacrifice of the enlightened one. A life of humiliation. The goat is always pulling the goat. People are often ungrateful. They always crucify their saviour. Let's start. A bodhisattva is a living, awakened human being who attained enlightenment one day and renounced it in order to fulfill his life mission of service and help to humankind. This renunciation is very painful and brings with it great depression. Sometimes the renunciant has to defile himself with impurities in order to remain anchored on earth and not fly away to nirvana, which can lead to guilt and sin complexes. At other times, the bodhisattva regrets having renounced, but going back is difficult, and what is done is done. Once you have tasted the honey of enlightenment, you are never the same again, no matter how much you hide it from others. They notice you as strange and different, and sometimes take you for a fool, when they don't feel open hostility for being who you are. It is not conscious but unconscious. In order to survive, you try to adapt to the world as best as you can, but you see that you don't have the same abilities as others, nor do you manage to completely believe the socially accepted lie, but instead you discover that you have other abilities that others don't have. Amnesia. The bodhisattva's greatest tragedy is amnesia. He gets so involved in the world, so identified with things, that he forgets who he is, and this causes him great suffering, until he suffers a trauma that forces him to remember his identity. This instinct to return leads him to sign up for an endless series of awakening courses that are of no use to him, because he is already awakened at the soul level. A bodhisattva cannot have close friends, because they never understand him. He is like the ugly duckling in the class, who is unaware that he is a swan. Those on the path of spiritual evolution take him for a backward student, because he looks foolish. He talks to almost no one, because he has nothing important to say, and there is no meaning in small talk. The bodhisattva's impulse of solidarity comes not from his ego, but from his soul. And sometimes the ego reproaches the soul for being so generous because no one thanks it. But the soul cannot help it, because it is its nature. Just as the nature of the flower is to blossom, so the nature of the bodhisattva is to extend his benevolent arms to all humankind, like the thousand-armed Chenrezig of the Tibetans. Obstacles. The devil tries to put 1,000 obstacles in the way of the bodhisattva, because he considers him a very dangerous enemy, because of his ability to awaken misguided souls. He humiliates him in childhood to the utmost extreme in every inconceivable way, from the family to the educational system, and also causes him all kinds of health problems. All the kids at school pick on the weight without knowing why they do it, just like in the story of the ugly duckling, who has not yet discovered that he is a swan. When it comes to his working life, the bodhisattva usually has a tyrannical boss who constantly pokes him and abuses his nobility. He is usually a very efficient worker and sacrifices himself for his company far above what he is paid, which is usually not much. But nobody thanks him for it, and his colleagues also mistreat him out of envy and because they see him as different. Moreover, the Bodhisattva detests all official religions because he realizes that what they preach has nothing to do with his personal experience, but he loves the mystics of all traditions because they are so much like him. No matter how hard he tries to be the same as others, the Bodhisattva never succeeds, and others take him for a fool because they do not understand him, let alone appreciate him. At the end of his waking life, the Bodhisattva is an outcast with a bittersweet taste, with a lot of wisdom accumulated through hard experiences, and with memories that sometimes torment him and that he tries to erase through various spiritual practices. The goat is always the beast, and the Bodhisattva is what he is, even if sometimes his ego does not want to be. But he cannot help it because it is the nature of the flower to bloom. When he fulfills his mission, he is beset by all sorts of obstacles, from a nervous breakdown to a tummy ache, or a worry of fear, or a plague of fleas, and even the demonetization of his channel. But in the end, he becomes a fox and knows how to get rid of every problem, and not without difficulty. Labyrinth. At the end of his life, he swears to himself that he will not fall into the trap of samsara again, but his soul cannot stop loving before everyone is as he is. All his effort is now focused on finding the way back to his original enlightenment, but it is not easy because he has become too entangled in the ordeal of the labyrinth and has been lost and deviated from the right path too many times. That is why he begs the infinite every day to help him to find his way home, because he is so tired and fed up with so much lies, so much worldly rubbish. The Bodhisattva is a renegade prince who renounced the privileges of kingship, as did the Buddha, and who mingled with the world in order to be equal to others, but never succeeded because others saw him as strange and different. He doesn't agree with the maxim of kings to use a heavy hand against the commoners, but the commoners are often very hard on the Bodhisattva and do not hesitate to crucify their saviour because they are deeply ungrateful, but they cannot help loving them in spite of everything. So much for my third-person experience, narrated in public for the first time, after having had an epiphany about my life. But now I will try to summarize what the instant tradition says about the Bodhisattva figure, which doesn't always match my personal experience. Definition. A Bodhisattva refers to anyone who has generated compassion or bodhicitta, a spontaneous desire and compassionate mind to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. It is a compound term: body, supreme knowledge, enlightenment, and sattva, being. The Sanskrit term sattva can mean strength, energy, vigor, power, might, courage, and therefore bodhisattva could also mean one whose energy and power is directed towards body. He is one who works to develop and exemplify loving kindness, compassion, empathetic joy, and equanimity. These four virtues are the four divine abodes, called incommensurable. Thus it refers to a being embarking on a quest for supreme enlightenment, not only for his own benefit, but for the benefit of all. Not only individual salvation, but collective salvation is sought. A bodhisattva is someone committed to reducing the suffering of others. The bodhisattva vow is motivated by great compassion and commitment to generate bodhicitta, a spontaneous desire to attain Buddhahood or enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. In examining humankind's dilemma, the bodhisattva recognizes that we cannot wait for negative external conditions to improve until we have transformed the same conditions in ourselves. By cultivating our inherent qualities, such as love and compassion, we can awake what in Sanskrit is called Bodhi, or the great mind, the source of all positive qualities, that which enhances the efficacy and depth of our work by being far more powerful than our ordinary mind. The idea of sacrifice is part of this principle. According to Sankarashita, there are people who are living in this world and making a great sacrifice with it, for they have decided to turn their backs on nirvana in order to return to earth and help the humankind to evolve further and further towards enlightenment. The best known bodhisattvas are Avalokiteshvara, Manjushri, and Samantabhadra. The most popular is Chenrezig or Avalokiteshvara, the bodhisattva of compassion. In China, he is known as Guanyin, in Japan as Kannon, and in the Himalayas as Chenrezig. Vows and precepts. The four vows of the bodhisattva. However numerous the beings may be, I vow to save them all. However numerous the passions may be, I vow to overcome them all. However numerous the Dharma doors may be, I vow to pass through them all. However perfect the Buddha way may be, I vow to realize it. Fourfold vows. The unrescued I will rescue. The unreleased I will release. The discomforted I will comfort. Those who have not yet attained paranirvana, I will make them attain paranirvana. Four extensive vows. Those who have not yet been transported, I will transport them. Those who have not yet understood, I will make them understand. Those who have not settled, I will make them settle. Those who have not attained nirvana, I will make them attain nirvana. The 10 main bodhisattva precepts are in brief. Do not kill or encourage others to kill. Do not steal or encourage others to steal. Do not engage in licentious acts or encourage others to do so. A monk is expected to abstain completely from sexual conduct. Not to use false words and speech or encourage others to do so. Not to market or sell alcoholic beverages or encourage others to do so. Not to broadcast the misdeeds of the assembly, nor encourage others to do so. Not to praise oneself and speak ill of others, nor encourage others to do so. Not to be stingy, nor encourage others to do so. Not harboring anger or encouraging others to be angry. Not to speak ill of the Buddha, Dharma or Sangha, or encourage others to do so. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.